In January 2026, the Lexington Police Department announced they had finally solved a murder. Linda Rutledge, 27 years later. The killer, Robert Eugene Brashers. But here's the problem. Brashers died in 1999. And nobody knew he was a serial killer until 2018, 19 years after his death. Between 1985 and 98, he killed at least 8 people across 6 states, burned crime scenes, raped victims, and never, while alive, was charged with a single homicide. This is the story of a man who remained completely invisible to justice. Robert Eugene Brashers was born on March 13th, 1958, Newport News, Virginia. He grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, served in the armed forces, got married, had a daughter in 1991. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary life. But his daughter would later reveal something chilling. Brashers recorded himself testing his pain tolerance, made small cuts on his own body with tools, as if training for something. In one incident, he seriously injured his daughter's stepfather with a power drill. He would disappear for weeks, claiming work trips. The mother asked the children to call him by different names. Sometimes Robert, sometimes Michael, sometimes something else entirely. The family was living under false identities, not because they were in witness protection, but because Brashers demanded it. He was obsessed with keeping his family hidden, with maintaining a facade of normalcy while he hunted. The family knew something was wrong. They just didn't know how wrong. November 22nd, 1985. Fort Pierce, Florida. Brashers, 27 years old, met Michelle Wilkerson at a bar. She was 24. She accepted a ride. He took her to an isolated citrus grove, drank 6 beers, made sexual advances. Michelle refused. Brashers pulled out a gun and fired twice, head and neck. Michelle should have died in that grove, but she didn't. Even with 2 gunshot wounds, she managed to get out of the car, crawl into a ditch, and reach a nearby house for help. Her description led to Brashers' immediate arrest, sentenced to 12 years for attempted murder. But here's the first critical failure. Brashers was released on May 4th, 1989, after only 3.5 years. No documented explanation for the early release. This decision would cost at least 8 lives. April 5th, 1990. Greenville, South Carolina. Genevieve Zitricki, 28 years old. Jenny was sociable. She threw parties at her apartment complex, had a predictable routine. She liked to sunbathe by the pool. Investigators believe Brashers watched her, stalked her, mapped her habits. Then he broke into her apartment. Jenny was beaten, strangled with her own pantyhose, raped, her body placed in the bathtub, partially submerged. And on the bathroom wall, the killer left a message. "Don't fuck with my family." For years, investigators didn't understand what that message meant. Was it a warning? A taunt? But now we know. Brashers wasn't warning Jenny. He was reinforcing his own delusion. See, Brashers lived 2 lives. One as a husband and father. One as a predator. And he used his family as psychological armor. when he forced his children to use fake names, when he disappeared for weeks, when he wrote that message on Jenny's wall. He was building a wall between his two identities. The message wasn't for his victims. It was for himself. A reminder that his real family, his cover story, his disguise, had to remain protected, even while he destroyed other families. This wasn't just paranoia, it was a psychological mechanism. By keeping his family hidden under false names, he separated the family man from the killer. In his mind, as long as nobody connected Robert Eugene Brashers, the father, to Robert Eugene Brashers, the murderer, his family was safe. DNA was collected from the scene. No match. The case went cold for 28 years. December 6th, 1991. Austin, Texas. 4 girls were at an I can't believe it's yogurt shop. Friday night, getting ready to close. Amy Ayers, 13 years old, the youngest. She wasn't an employee. She was just there to catch a ride home. Jennifer Harbison, 17. She was the employee responsible for closing that night. She wore a class ring and a Timex watch. Sarah Harbison, 15. Jennifer's younger sister. She was just tagging along. She wore a gold necklace and a Mickey Mouse watch. Eliza Thomas, 17. Jennifer's co-worker and friend. 4 teenagers with normal plans, going home after a shift. Around 11 p.m., a man entered the shop. Asked to use the back bathroom. Probably unlocked a door. After closing, the girls stayed inside, counting money. That's when the attack began. All 4 were tied up with their own clothing, stripped naked, gagged. At least one was sexually assaulted, then executed with shots to the head. Using 2 different weapons, a .22 caliber pistol and a .380 caliber pistol. Amy Ayers, the 13-year-old girl who just wanted to go home, took 2 shots. Then the location was set on fire to destroy evidence. A police officer saw the flames. Firefighters entered. They found 4 naked, charred bodies scattered throughout the shop. The case became a national obsession. The pressure to solve it was immense. And under that pressure, the investigation made devastating mistakes. 4 men were accused: Michael Scott, Robert Springsteen, Forrest Wellborn, Maurice Pierce. Interrogations lasted hours, some more than 20 hours, without lawyers present, psychological coercion, promises of leniency. Some confessed. Springsteen and Scott were sentenced to death, but the DNA didn't match. Their lives were destroyed, careers ruined, relationships shattered. For 34 years, they lived under the shadow of a crime they didn't commit. And nobody knew who really killed those girls. Except Amy Ayers fought back. She scratched her attacker. Decades later, when the DNA under her fingernails was retested, they found the killer's profile. An investigator later said, Amy's last moments on Earth were to solve this case. February 1992, just 2 months after the yogurt shop massacre. Brashers was arrested again. Vehicle theft, illegal possession of a firearm. Police found with him a police radio scanner, a police jacket, burglary tools, a fake ID, and a .380 caliber pistol. That weapon was the same pistol used in the yogurt shop massacre 1 month earlier, but nobody tested it. See, the NIBIN system, National Integrated Ballistics Information Network, compares marks from bullets and casings. If a weapon is used in multiple crimes, NIBIN identifies the connection automatically. But in 1992, this technology was new, and police simply didn't test the weapon. The gun was returned to Brashers' family after his trial. He was sentenced to 5 years for vehicle theft, released in February 1997. If that weapon had been tested in '92, the massacre would have been solved immediately. 4 innocent men wouldn't have been accused, and 6 people would still be alive today. March 28th, 1998, Portageville, Missouri. Brashers knocked on the door of Sherry Scherer's home. Sherry was 38 years old. Her daughter Megan was 12. Brashers brandished a .22 caliber revolver, forced his way inside, tied up mother and daughter. Megan, 12 years old, was raped. Then both Sherry and Megan were executed with gunshots. That same night, about 2 hours later, Brashers broke into another home in Dyersburg, Tennessee. He tried to attack a 25-year-old woman. She fought back ferociously. He fled. Ballistics connected the weapon used in both attacks. But Brashers was not identified. On April the 12th, 1998, Brashers was arrested trying to break into another residence, and he was released shortly after, November 7th, 1998. Lexington, Kentucky. Linda Marie Rutledge, 43 years old, was working at the Nixon Hearing Aid Center. End of business hours. Linda was alone in the small clinic. Brashers entered. Linda was raped, shot multiple times in the head with the .380 pistol, the same weapon from Austin in '91. The location was set on fire. Firefighters found Linda's body in the back hallway. A .380 casing was recovered from a drain. DNA was collected from the rape kit for 27 years. Nobody knew who killed her. January 13th, 1999. Police located Robert Eugene Brashers at a Super 8 motel in Kennett, Missouri. He was with his wife, his daughter, and 2 stepdaughters. When officers arrived, Brashers took his family hostage. 4 hours of negotiation. He gradually released them. Then he grabbed his semi-automatic pistol, the same weapon he used to kill Linda Rutledge, the 4 girls in Austin, and so many others, and shot himself in the head. He remained alive for 6 more days. Died on January 19th, 1999. Robert Eugene Brashers was never formally charged with a single homicide while alive. For almost 2 decades, nobody knew Brashers was a serial killer. But in 2018, a genealogist named Cece Moore, working with Parabon Nanolabs, used a revolutionary technique, genetic genealogy. She took DNA profiles from crime scenes, processed them through public ancestry databases like GEDmatch, found partial matches with distant relatives, then reconstructed family trees. and all genealogical paths led to one man, Robert Eugene Brashers. On September 27th, 2018, his casket was exhumed from a cemetery in Paragould, Arkansas. DNA was extracted from his bones, and it confirmed everything. Brashers killed Genevieve Zitricki, Sherry and Megan Scherer, the 4 girls in Austin. But one critical piece was still missing, connecting Austin to Kentucky. In July 2025, 34 years after the massacre, the NIBIN system made an automatic match. The .380 casing from Linda Rutledge's murder in Kentucky matched the weapon from the Austin massacre in 1991, the same weapon found with Brashers in '92, the weapon that was never tested, the weapon that was returned to his family. In September 2025, Brashers' DNA was confirmed in Linda's rape kit. On September 26th, Austin police announced that Robert Eugene Brashers killed the 4 girls. On January 7th, 2026, just 2 weeks ago, Lexington police announced Linda's case was solved. 27 years later, in December 2025, the Travis County District Attorney filed motions to exonerate the 4 innocent men. Michael Scott spent 5 years in prison before his conviction was overturned. Robert Springsteen spent 13 years, much of it on death row. Forrest Wellborn and Morris Pierce were never formally convicted, but lived under public suspicion for decades. Because now, DNA, ballistics, and genetic genealogy definitively prove they were innocent. The story of Robert Eugene Brashers isn't just about a serial killer. It's about a system that failed repeatedly at every critical stage. 1985, attempted murder, 12-year sentence. Only 3.5 years served. 1992, murder weapon found in his possession. Never tested, returned to family. 1998, multiple arrests for attempted break-ins, repeatedly released. 1999, dies by suicide. Never charged with a single homicide. 8 confirmed homicides. 6 states. 13 years of criminal activity, and not a single formal charge while alive. But here's what terrifies investigators today. Brashers' daughter said in interviews, "He would disappear for weeks. My mother asked us to call him by different names. I saw things I didn't understand at the time. He recorded himself testing pain. I believe there are more victims." Authorities agree, because here's what we know about Brashers' movements. Between 1985 and 1998, he constantly traveled. Florida, South Carolina, Texas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, 6 states, 8 confirmed victims. But those are just the cases we've connected. What about Louisiana, where he lived in the early 80s? What about Arkansas, where he's buried? Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia? Any of these states could have unsolved cases. So, here's what law enforcement is asking. If you're a detective anywhere in the United States with an unsolved case from 1985 to 1998, look for these specific characteristics. Home invasion as the method of entry. Female victims, especially young women or teenage girls. Sexual assault before death. Execution-style killing with firearms. specifically .22 or .380 caliber. Fire used to destroy evidence. No apparent connection between victim and attacker. Crimes occurring in the South or Midwest. If your case fits this pattern, contact the Austin Police Department Cold Case Unit, the Lexington Police Department, or Parabon Nanolabs for genetic genealogy analysis, because Brashers' DNA is now in CODIS. His ballistic signatures are in NIBIN. If he committed crimes in your jurisdiction, the technology exists to prove it. Linda Rutledge waited 27 years for justice. The 4 girls in Austin waited 34 years. Genevieve Zitricki's family waited 28 years. How many others are still waiting?